Bujo peeps, that's hi peeps in Potawatomi. Welcome to Star Nations Organization's main fan page here at Facebook, and to the morning card draw live stream that we do just about every morning. And the card draw really is about the energy that is important for us to know about today. And so welcome. It is Friday, August 3rd. Yes, August. My goodness. Hey, Elise Miller. Good morning to you, and good morning to Marianne if she's watching. I have to say that it is another beautiful day here. A little cooler than usual. When I got up, it was like 46 degrees, and it's still kind of cool enough to have a jacket on anyway. I'm just going to check to see what the temperature is because it feels cooler than, it's 64 degrees. Yeah, it's cooling off. Elise says, how are your patients today, Nurse Neshi? Well, let me tell you, they both slept through the night, which means that I got to sleep through the night, and that's a big yay because I feel pretty good today. Paul, his cough is, he's taken it better. It's not as, it's more of his diaphragm than his lungs, that was giving him the problem. And so that's much better since probably around 10 o'clock last night. So that's good. Mom's mom, bless her heart. She was just trying to be as helpful as she could be in the last couple of days. And I had to take some time and sit down and chat with her about that. Thanking her for trying to be helpful as much as she could, but she was really putting herself more at risk than she needed to. And I said, I can't handle you falling and being in the hospital and Paul being this sick and on the verge of being in the hospital. So if you could just kind of stay put in your chair and so I know that you're safe, that would be even more helpful. So she's doing pretty well. She really is. She hasn't talked about her pain level. I know it's there, but I think that she's just kind of keeping it to herself until we get through this one piece with Paul. So thanks for asking, Elise. I appreciate that. I know there are many, many of us here at Star Nations community who have had interaction with the medical world. Either we are part of the medical world or we're patients of the medical world, right? And yesterday, actually in the last couple of days, I had a really stark reminder about that world and having compassion for people who may not have somebody to advocate for them, to ask questions on their behalf, because that can be difficult, right? But I had to take some time yesterday after we got back from, okay, I got to step back just a little bit because since Elise asked. Good morning, Stephanie. At the end, at my live stream yesterday afternoon, I was kind of joking around and saying, I think I'm going to stay up here and catch a nap because it's so quiet up here. And I knew that Mom and Paul were taken care of. They were resting, and so I was going to take some time just to kind of close my eyes and get a nap in, right? Well, I was actually serious about that. I ended up going back down to the house though because I wanted to check on a couple of things for Paul, and so actually I had just sat down in the recliner, had popped the foot thing out, and was getting comfortable, and the phone rang, and the house phone, the landline, and so I answered it, and it was the clinic. They had done another blood draw yesterday morning for Paul, and his white count was higher, and they wanted him to go into the emergency room as soon as we could arrange it for them to do another blood draw and do a more extensive lab work on it. All right, so needless to say, I didn't get my nap in. I spent what time I would have had taken a nap trying to arrange care for Mom for the hours to cover a meal and snack and possible bedtime, depending on how long it took us with this blood draw thing. And so so the nap didn't happen. So anyway, we did get back from the ER. It was closer to 7 o'clock that night, which was a lot earlier than I thought it was going to be. Mom was taking care of. One of my brothers came, thank goodness. He only lives 30 minutes from me, and he literally dropped everything he was doing to come, and that was good. Yeah, Stephanie, I'll get to that in just a second, because I'm doing a little explanation about what happened. And so anyway, we got back from ER, and I got Paul something to eat because he really hadn't eaten much at all, well, since Sunday, really. And so he and I had a little bit to eat, and my brother had already left and had Mom situated, Paul situated. I made myself an adult beverage, and I went and sat out in the Four Seasons, and I was just quiet, no TV on, no music on, just me and the windows open so I could hear some of the birds, and sat there for a little bit, just quiet, and thinking about the events of the day and the cards that we drew yesterday, and realized that I was a direct participant. I wasn't a witness. I was a direct participant in the flow of the energy yesterday, and that's when I realized that I hadn't been a directly involved with the medical world in a really long time. I know I have my mom here, but she doesn't have a lot of doctor's appointments. She has a nurse that comes in once every quarter or so, but we don't have a whole lot of contact with the medical world in that way. It's not like she has a lot of medical appointments. And I realized that, I thought, you know what? Out of the whole day and thinking about the medical people, the medical staff in a clinic and in the emergency room, the nursing staff, the CNAs, the physician's assistant, they were beyond wonderful. They were so helpful. They were so kind. They really tried to be helpful, and I had to appreciate that. I didn't take the time in the moment to appreciate it. We had a nurse at the smaller clinic. It's a walk-in clinic, and they're really, really nice there. I didn't realize how much she did there. She not only does your intake, the questionnaires and, what are your meds, blah, 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 right? She did that, got that inputted into the computer, and took his vitals and left, right? Like most nurses do. She says, "Doctor will be right with you." Well, it was actually a nurse practitioner. "We'll be right with you." They did another x-ray, and the nurse who was the intake person was also their x-ray technician, but she was also their phlebotomist. So she did a really good job in drawing the blood too, because Paul had, he'd been poked and prodded so much, he wasn't really looking forward to this one, but she was so good at it. And she also did the preliminary tests on the blood and made sure the x-ray was to the nurse practitioner. She did a lot, and I was telling her she's like a one-stop shop. So communication, right? with the right people. But I also realized that at the ER thing, the atmosphere is much different. And dealing with medical people there, especially like the ER doctor and the head nurse, was not an easy communication with them. I even told the doctor, I said, geez, asking you questions is kind of like being an attorney and questioning somebody on the witness stand. It's like, because he was so evasive. And I told him, I realized that you have to not say certain things because of you have to protect yourself from legal lawsuits and that kind of thing. But at least you could do is answer a simple question. It's like, my question is like, why did his white count go up after he started the antibiotic? I just wanted to understand that. So long story short, or long story long, really, I'm doing much better today. I did take the time to kind of try to look at that situation the last couple of days from a broader and higher perspective. What was this all about? And being appreciated, what do I appreciate about all of that? I realized that we spend more time on the less than positive aspects of a conversation than we do on the positive aspects of the conversation. And when we do that, I think that we send our whole being through an intense event. Okay, meaning that when I was talking to the doctor, I could feel my body tensing up. I could feel my blood pressure. I could feel the physical body reacting to this, and the mental mind, racing forward to try to formulate the questions and that sort of thing, And so when I was in my contemplation, I realized that we really spend more time and energy in those negative or less than positive interactions than we do with the more positive interactions. And so I took some time and spent a few moments being thankful for those that are assisting Paul through the medical world, and appreciating them and their education and their experience and the profession that they chose for those that were very much in a helpful, positive way, because they're in the right place at the right time, right? So that is the extent that I want to go into the medical situation with Paul. Elisa's saying, my last stint at college from 96 to 2000, I majored in anatomy. Loved it. If I were younger, I would be a forensic pathologist. Ooh, that's interesting. That reminds me of one of my favorite authors, and her character. Oh, shoot. Do you ever do that? You were just going to say something and it just leaves you. Patricia Cornwell, right? She has a character who is a medical examiner and works with the forensic side of things. Love that. So thank you, Stephanie, for asking how I'm doing. I am doing so much better today. Really, I am. Hey, Mary Anderson Fry. She said, I arrived right. What did I miss about medical issues? Paul was diagnosed on Tuesday with pneumonia, and we've been dealing with the medical world since Tuesday. Yeah. It's been an adventure. And so yesterday, I think it felt like a culmination, actually, a coming together, in that confluence. And so I think, I don't know, when he went to bed last night, his cough sounded not as strained, not as painful. And so I'm hoping, and when I left to come up here, he was just getting up. And so I'm thinking, yes, Elise, Kay Scarpetta. It's Kay, yes, one of my favorite characters. Um, and I always wish that they would turn that series into a movie or television series or something. I think that would be really good. So anyway, here's the thing. I was helping Mom finish up her breakfast items this morning, and I'm helping her to stand up from the table, right? And I look up out the back French doors, windows, and through the Four Seasons porch, and there stands at the back fence gate a red fox looking right at me. It's probably because I was moving around, but he was looking. We made eye contact, right? And when he realized I saw him and he saw me, you could see the look, and his ears get perked up, and we stood there for like a half a second looking at each other. I think he was trying to decide if he was going to come through the back, the closed gate, because they can go under, right? Or if he was going to go around the outside of the fence. Well, he chose to go around the outside of the fence. And so we had fox medicine this morning. And so I'm sitting there looking at that. And my sister-in-law posted some fox pictures that she took yesterday. And so there was a lot of fox energy going on this morning. And, it's what little that I really considered about fox, about the camouflage and shape shifting and feminine energies. Those came off the top of my head immediately. And I'm thinking, all right, so what is this really about? So I'm talking to my spiritual team, right? And they were talking about the creative energy. And yeah, and so when I got up here, my Ted Andrews Animal Speak is up here. And so I did a quick look, and yeah, sure enough, there was one last line under the meaning of fox is about unleashing the creative energy. And I thought to myself, I'm going with that one. That one. Thank you, Mary. Yeah, he is feeling, I think, feeling better. When the few minutes that I saw him this morning, his eyes look so much clearer. He has better color, and I think he's doing. I think we turned a corner last night. And Stephanie's saying, "Cool beans, red foxes are so beautiful." I know, aren't they though? And so anyway, as I watched him as far as I could through those windows, then I had to go into Mom's bedroom to watch him the rest of the way, and I lost him in the underbrush. I thought, oh, well, glad you came to visit. Thank you for the message. And as I was finishing up with her and actually leaving her living room area, I looked out the front window there, and there he was walking down one of the little lanes and pounced on something. And so whatever it was, a mid-morning snack or what, I don't know, but he was on the hunt. All right, so this morning's card draw. I really, it's been a while since I looked at the sacred geometry information. And this particular oracle deck that I bought back in 2002. It's by Francine Hart, Sacred Geometry Oracle deck. And pulling cards from her deck is kind of like a nice trip down memory lane for me. And so the cards that were drawn this morning is very interesting, to say the least. So, in this card draw, usually I would only draw maybe one card for the energy of the day. What's important for us to know about today. And with this oracle deck, we select two cards. And the first card that gets drawn is the card that goes on the right-hand side of the card lay. And that represents mental thought, male energies, and that side. And the left side The second card represents the female energies and intuition. And so the first card that was drawn is this one. It is the cube, or also known as the hexahedron. Hexahedron. It's the cube. And the cube is one of the 5 platonic solids. I call them my platonic friends. And the cube represents, each one of the platonic solids represents one of the elements, right? And so the cube represents the earth and male energies in sacred geometry. And so when I was first studying sacred geometry and I came to this piece and trying to understand and take in the information, because this piece kind of is contradictory to the medicine wheel information, right? So in this way, they put the earth as a male energy. And the reason why is because the cube that represents the earth energies is because it's a contained life form. It's contained. To go off earth energies, to leave the earth while you're still in the physical form, it's very difficult to do that. Even when we ride in planes, we're only away from certain earth energies, but we're still contained within the earth. For those like astronauts who leave the earth, that's why it was such a big deal when we did that. When the two-leggeds, don't matter which country it was, when the two-leggeds were able to leave the contained being called Earth. And so that's why the cube represents Earth, is because it's a contained element. It's contained life form. And because of the energies around something like that, that's why in sacred geometry, the cube, the hexahedron, represents a male energy. So Elise is saying we have been knocking like Sasquatch, not every day, but distinct. That's true. Oh, Sasquatch. I believe in them, you know. I've always known they've existed, only because my Misho, my grandfather, he would talk about them every once in a while. And he would say, especially, I think it was in the 70s when was it in the 70s? I think it was when that first video came out of Oregon, I think it was, or was it Northern California? I think it was Northern California, where they had an image of a Sasquatch, right? And so what he would say, my Misha would say, is that, you know, they're just like us. They live in families and clans, and they move around. They're nomadic, but you know, they like to be left alone. So leave them alone. If they don't bother us, why should we bother them? They're trying to live in peace. Leave them alone. All right. So, and later I learned that they're more multi-dimensional being than we are. That they remember how to go from one dimension to the other with their physical body. We know how to do this with our spiritual body, but not our physical body, right? Not many of us, I should say. So when you say Sasquatch, in fact, I have a little figurine over there about a Sasquatch. All right, so hexahedron. See how we get, it's so easy for me to go off subject. So the hexahedron, also known as the cube. The cube. This is what Francine Hart writes about it. She says that it's one of the 3-dimensional geometric shapes commonly known as the platonic solids. She says within the structure of the platonic solids, they hold cosmic wisdom. So this is one aspect of that cosmic wisdom. The cube has 6 equal square faces. It represents solidity, strength, and confined order. It holds earth and male energies. She says, pulling this card finds you seeking order in a situation that seems like you're out of control. It's out of your control, that you don't have any control over it. And that you feel boxed in without room to move. It may be time to consciously step out of the confining situation in order to view it from a larger perspective. You may simply need a vacation or a little time away from everyday cares. And I was thinking, when I read this, I thought, okay, is this a card for everybody, or is this a card just for me? And when I was talking to my spiritual team about it, and they were saying that we are so interconnected. When we say all my relation, or in Potawatomi, it's Yage Nalgonan, and that means all my relatives. And that's just not the two-leggeds, it's everybody and everything, right? So that what happens to one affects everyone. And so there is we'll call it a mass consciousness, okay? A mass consciousness that is dealing with similar situations. And much like that, what Paul and I and Mom are going through right now, right? And I thought to myself, well, I took the time last night. I literally stopped and said, you know what? I can't take another step without being quiet for a while. No talking, no television, no radio, just silence. And I'm sitting out in the Four Seasons porch, as close to nature as I could get without going out for a walk. And I wanted to get to the higher perspective, because I knew there was one to help me get through the next few steps that I needed to do. And so when I drew this card this morning, it was like I thought, God, you guys, speaking to spirit, there's something about how we're so connected. And so in some ways, it makes me feel better, for lack of a better word. It makes me feel better knowing that there's others who understand, what we're experiencing. There's others who can not just empathize, but sympathize, right? Because they've been through it. And that when you bring both the empathy and the sympathy together, that well of compassion is so much deeper, right? There's a richer connection between us and within us. And so it made me feel better, really. So for anybody and everybody who has been going through a recent illness, or supporting somebody who is going through an illness, our hearts go out to you, and we pray that things work out for the best, and that you have the support that you need, right, to get through it. Yeah, because we're in it together. What's Elise saying? She's saying it's a bit weird as we aren't that far out in the wild. No, we're not. In fact, I live outside the city limits by probably 2 miles, maybe. About that. They just changed it, so it could be a little bit closer. And so we're really on the edge. And when you think about it, we're kind of that in between, the betwixt and between. We're not really in town, and we're not really out in the country, right? So we're kind of the betwixt and between. And so in many ways, we're also part of that corridor for our four-legged relatives. Yeah, our animal relatives. And they cross through areas that are, their pathways are in safe zones, literally. And so it kind of feels good that, they view where we live as a safe place to cross through, a safe place to have their children. They're young. We have, we have deer having their babies here almost every year, and maybe at least one will have their fawns here. So yeah, we're not all that far out, but look how much of nature that we get to enjoy and to be a part of, even though we're not really way far out, out in the middle of nowheresville. All right, so getting back to hexahedron. So she was saying that that we need to step out of the box and seek a new perspective. And seeking that new perspective, it could be talking to a friend and just sharing your thoughts and your feelings, and sometimes it helps us to understand it a little bit better just by verbalizing it. And sometimes the solution that we're looking for comes out in that conversation. Or seeking a wise counsel, and that wise counsel could be an elder, it could be a therapist, it could be clergy, it could be someone who has listened to many, 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 many people, right? And she also says, most definitely ask for inner guidance before initializing any kind of radical change. And she's saying that when we're doing this kind of work with the hexahedron, and we're looking at a different perspective, a broader perspective, she's literally saying, get out of the box. Get out of the box. It's too confining. And that sometimes in order to get out of the box, we really have to shake things up. She uses the word radical, Now remember, this was published in 2001. And so the word radical was very prominent then, how rad it is, right? So that's what she's referring to with this card, is that if you're feeling like you don't have control, or you need more control, like we need more control, that maybe what we need to do is think outside the box, to get out of the box, to get a different perspective. She says, know the universe will support action once your intentions become clear. So for today's energy, and recognizing what the hexahedron brings, it's still part of the platonic solids. It's part of the building blocks of all life. It holds wisdom to creation. And so taking the essence of the card, and that is about being creative, doing something different to shake it up a bit, right? And then I add it to seeing the fox this morning in two different ways. In real time, seeing a live four-legged fox in my backyard, and seeing the gorgeous pictures that my sister-in-law Heidi took and shared on Facebook. And so I got the valid, it's like fox energy really wanted me to notice it. So, and it's about, and I took what I read about fox in Ted Andrews' book, that last line about the creativity. And so I really do believe that the creativity is going to help me anyway, to get out of the box. Get out of the box. All right, so that was the male side of the card draw. All right, and here's the female side. It's the Tzolkin. It's Mayan, the Tzolkin. Let's see if I can get that into focus. There we go. Notice the energy, the swirl on that. The Tzolkin is about time, the passage of time. All right, so it's actually called a circle of time represents a circle of time, I should say. The essence of the card, circle of time. And so what Francine, how she describes this card is she says that it comes from the ancient Mayan. It's a revered as the Mayan are revered as timekeepers. They created a calendar whose accuracy has not slipped one day in over 25 centuries. Right. The circular representation of a portion of that tradition is called the Tzolkin, or sacred round. So Tzolkin means sacred round. It's based on a count of 260 days. 20 of these days are named, and they each have 13 facets. So it's almost like a fractal in a way. 13 different facets. She says this card reminds you to consider how time is affecting your life. Take a brief moment to view your relationship with the circle of time and the hopes and dreams you place within the circle of your life experience. So this is a different way of relating to the meaning of time. You know, and time, the measurement of time is a human construct. Humans were able to create a way to measure. And some say that it is that measurement of time that we two-leggeds do helps us to chronicle, helps us to journal the passage of our life. That time actually is a mechanism that proves that we were here, proves that our life existed, because we can say at such and such a time this occurred. Does that make sense? You know, the first time I read that, which was years ago, I thought, I prefer not to live by the clock. I prefer to have my meals when I feel hungry, not when the clock says it's time to have a meal. I prefer to go to bed when I'm sleepy and to wake up when I feel rested, and not necessarily driven by the clock. Now, realizing that doesn't fit our society. There's times when we can do that. We call that a vacation, right? Time away. See, time. So, the contemplation, your thoughts. How often have you even thought about this? The passage of time. Why do humans have to mark the time? And some of it has to do with productivity, really. How much can you produce? What can you produce in X amount of time? Some people clock in, clock out. That's my 8 hours. If I do overtime, I get paid more. There's a lot of references to time. Good times, bad times. Yeah, there's a lot to this, more than what meets the eye or the ear. And how do we use time to create? What do we fill our time with? There's so many times during the day. See, we have it in our vocabulary a lot. During the day, you all know how busy I am. I don't have to tell you that. But throughout the day, I'll look at the clock and I'll say, okay, I have 20 minutes before I have to do the next thing for mom. And I just finished up that. What can I do in 20 minutes that I can check off my list in 20 minutes? And sometimes it's just folding a load of laundry. Sometimes it is making a telephone call. And so what can I do in 20 minutes? Sometimes it's to go out and weed a small patch of a flower garden, just to pull a few blades of grass, for 20 minutes. So what do you do? How do you do that? How do you think about time? Mary's saying we measure everything, don't we? We measure everything. On a scale of 1 to 10, on a scale of 1 to 10, what's your pain? Yeah, Paul was getting that asked so much in the last few days. And I'd be sitting in the room with him and I'd say, on a scale of 1 to 10, and he'd give me this look. I said, what's your joy? And the first time I asked him that, he said 1. 1. It's not on the chart. And last night while we were sitting in an ER room, and they had, one of those big signs that says, your pain level, what's your pain level from 1 to 10? They have the little emoticon faces that go with it, right? And so I asked him, I said, and so what is your joy level right now? Using the emoticon face. So we were trying to have fun at the same time. But his joy level was a little bit higher than it was the day before. So, yes, Mary, we measure everything. We do. And so the Mayans, though, they took this to a very scientific, elaborate, defined movement measurement. It has not been off by a day in 25 centuries. The Tzolkin. And there's people who that is their career, that is their life's passion, is to study the Mayan calendar and all it means in the Tzolkin. Now, I have to admit, I've looked at it, I've read some things about it, I try to understand it, and there's aspects that I do, but overall, it was during a time of my studies that, wow, this reminds me of of a very formalized education. In other words, it's like sitting in a desk and listening to somebody lecture on something. And so, but the Mayans themselves, they were very advanced beings, and their bloodline, their lineage is still here on Earth. There are thousands of Mayans alive today. Not all of them disappeared, vanished. There's some that did, yeah. Mary saying so fascinating. Hey, Jocelyn joined us. Good morning, Jocelyn. So these two cards that we received today, let me hold them up. I'm at my page there. So this one was the first card that was drawn, and so that is the male part of the card draw, and it's the hexahedron, meaning the cube. And literally, this is about, well, the cube represents Earth and being contained in a contained, conformed fashion. And Francine is literally saying, and that we have to think outside the box. We have to, looking and sensing things are the events in our lives from a higher, broader perspective. And in order to break out of the conformity, to break out of the box, is that you need to be creative. And sometimes you really have to shake it up in order to, if you've been in the box for a long time, Like working in a cubicle at a state office. I'm talking to Mary. Sometimes you have to do something pretty radical to break out of the box. And that radical sometimes is retirement. Sometimes it is buying a horse. Sometimes it is using one of your creative gifts, right? And the second card that came that represents in the card draw the female side, which is the intuition side, is the Tzolkin. And it's the measurement of how events flow in your life. Okay? So when you put these two together, what is the energy for today? I think the feeling I got, and then I have to add the fox medicine for mine, but the energy of around these cards and the flow of the energy that's important for us to know today, I believe, is that if we want to be different and not be so much in a box, in a cube, is that it's going to take a little time, has to elapse, and we should be stating our intention to the universe, we would say, making that prayer, saying this is what I want to do. I want to use my creativity to be able to have a different life, a more enjoyable life, a peaceful life, whatever it is for you. And then start making plans for that, because it's this card that as time elapses is going to tell your story, right? And to use this in a more feminine way, because this is really a masculine kind of card. The Tzolkin is a very masculine way of depicting the passage of time. But yet it ended up in the female position. So how to use that essence of that card in a more female kind of way. And so maybe it is more use of your intuition to make those plans, and how they can be measured by that masculine form of time, or find a female way of recording that passage, the events. So it could be a journal, but maybe not a written journal. Maybe it is a photographic journal. Maybe it is a drawing or a painting of that creation. To find a way to utilize the energy, the essence of that card in a more of a feminine way. Yeah. Good morning, Jocelyn. Mary's smiling. Breaking out of the cubicle. Elise saying, take a leap of faith. Yeah, that's a good one. Excellent one, Elise. And she said, and trust it'll be okay. Exactly. And you know what? That leap of faith isn't anything outside of ourselves. It's a leap of faith into ourselves. That faith in ourselves, a faith in our own creativity, faith in our intuition. It's the faith in ourselves, because we have all kinds of support. The entire universe is supporting us. Our spiritual teams are not just a couple of beings walking with us on this earth walk. No, we have multitudes. We have many, many, many in spirit, in energetic form, helping us. And they can only help us when we ask for that assistance. Because we're the ones that are having the physical experience, right? So turning to them and asking them questions. How can I get this done? Show me my next best step. I want to know with clarity what this was about. That was me last night. I want to sense it. I want to see it from a broader perspective. What was really going on here? And I was talking about my personal soul growth, but also the growth of my family. Our soul group. What does that mean for the soul group? Yeah. So it's a leap. Yes, take the leap of faith, but we're leaping into ourselves. Mary is saying, "You are so cute when you get excited about an idea." I know, I can't help it. Because you know why? All right. As we're sharing, as I'm giving you the information, the written information, I get these impressions, and they're coming from my spiritual team. And when I was talking about how we can use the essence of the Tzolkin to journal or chronicle our creativity in making that change, getting out of the box. What they were telling me was, oh, they could take photographs. Oh, they could draw it, and it's like, it doesn't have to be in written word. You could even use it in a way, be creative, in a way that to collage it. All right, we are all really, really busy people, right? And so to take the time to go out and take pictures, I take pictures, but I forget I have them and I don't share them. Yeah, that's a whole nother story. But what we could do, if you're somebody who has physical magazines or catalogs or something like that, you can use those images to journal and to chronicleize your creativity, what you're doing, your intentions. What are you creating? That's a way to use a Tzolkin masculine tool in a very feminine way, because images are feminine. And so that's why I got all excited, because I could see it happening. I could see how you could even use the spiral artist tablets, and using that as a journal. And I know that other people have done that before, but using it in a way that you are remembering, having your creation remembered, that you existed, that you created this. Now, you don't have to tell a gazillion people. You don't have to have fame and fortune over it. You can if you want, but that's not necessary. You could do it purely because you're you. And it's a way to be able to reflect back on it, maybe to share it with your grandchildren, or to others. But that's why I got excited, Mary. I did. I could see it happening. And it would be fun doing it. And for those who like to do drawings and haven't used that gift in a really long time, that still have some of their art supplies, it's nothing that we have to go out and buy. We already have it. We just have to apply it to mark that passage of time. And if you could, make a little time, carve out some time to reflect on how you define time outside of the dictionary, outside of the more formalized, right, definition of time. But how do you fill your time? How do you create your time? Yeah. How do you, because this is, I'm trying to figure out how to word this one. How do you bend time? How do you stretch time? Because remember, time, the measurement itself, is a human construct. We did that to ourselves. And so, in fact, this is a good question before we sign off for the day. How many in the chat have used the ability to either stretch time or bend time? That's a good question. Because if you believe you can do that and you have done that, you are really someone who believes and understands being a spiritual being. Yeah, that's probably a more generalized statement, but that you understand in your heart that you are a spirit having a physical experience. I'm waiting because there's 5-second delay on these things. So just because I asked the question and nobody's replied yet doesn't mean there isn't a reply. And while I'm waiting, I would like to remind you of a couple of things happening here at Star Nations. We have a class coming up next weekend here at Star Nations Academy in Tomah. We are doing journey work. It's an introduction to shamanic journey. And even though that you may have done an introduction before, or you've used shamanic journey in the past, but haven't used it in a while, you might want to come. It's really reasonable. It's $20. We're doing a day and a half of journey work here, and that's on August 11th and 12th. We'll start around 10 on Saturday and go until about 5 in the afternoon. And then we pick it back up around 9 or 9:30 on Sunday, and then we're done by noon-ish. Okay, yeah, get that time thing in there. And it's $20. We're going to try to do something creative with lunch, like potluck, or, bring your own sack lunch or something like that. And so and you can still register. Just go to the website, starnations.org, go to the Academy page, scroll down, and you'll see that class there. And you can register either, with, I think it's PayPal, could be Eventbrite. I think it could be Eventbrite. Or you can let me know, contact me, and you can send me a check if you want. Okay, so that's next weekend. And so there's still time for that. It's going to be fun. We're going to be doing some lower world work, power animal searches and retrievals. We're going to be going to the upper world, meeting a teacher. We're going to be doing some dancing. We're going to talk about middle world. I probably won't be doing a journey in the middle world because I think that you need a little bit more practice before you do that one. And then on Sunday, we're going to be doing a little bit different kind of journey work. We're actually traveling within our own body. We're going from our physical brain to our physical heart, and leading you in that journey. So that is this weekend, this coming weekend, not this weekend, but the weekend of the 11th and the 12th. And then we have another class coming up on the weekend of September 22nd, and that is the Magic of Hogwarts. And my good sister friend, Minnie Kansman, is coming over from Michigan, and we're going to be teaching our first class together in 3 years. We used to teach quite a bit together. And that class is going to be, holy cow, there's a lot going on in that class. Minnie's bringing with her gifts about nature and the Japanese art form of forest therapy. Yeah, she's going to be teaching us about some of the plants that we have in our own little areas, like here, on how to use them. And that's just one piece. We're going to be doing some shamanic journey, but more importantly, we're going to be making our own medicine pouches, our individual ones. And we're going to be talking about divination. Yeah, there's a lot going on that weekend. It's a good, we're trying to help you build a solid foundation for your spiritual work. And so that's the weekend of September 22nd. And the cost on that class is $99.75. Why that? 9 3/4. Hogwarts. We had a little fun with that. And then in October, the second weekend of October, no, maybe it's the first weekend, the weekend of October 5th and 6th, something like that. I don't have it right there in front of me. Is Polly Jola Bay is coming from Massachusetts here to teach the mystical, Mystical Healing, I think is 101 is the name of it. I had to stop and try to remember that one. It's all about the heart chakra. And she's also offering private healing sessions on Friday and Monday. And so any one of those classes you're interested in, just go to the website and you'll have more about it. All right. So Mary is saying, nope, not me. No time bending there or time stretching. Jocelyn is saying, time is so precious. Reflecting on our lives is a great experience to share with our grandchildren. I agree. I really agree, Jocelyn. And Stephanie says, wish I could come. I can't leave Colorado until my divorce is finalized. Yeah, I understand that. And then it's a whole bunch of freedom, right, Stephanie? A whole bunch of freedom. Hey, Erin, good morning to you. That's my niece. She's running for Wisconsin State Senate. I'm so proud of you. Yep. And Elise Miller is saying, love and hugs to all of you. Yeah, love you too, Jocelyn. And with that, please take whatever information that was shared today about these two cards and take what resonated with you, all right? Embrace it. Use it. See how it unfolds for you today. If it's your participant or a direct participant or a witness to it, right? And if it didn't, that's okay. Maybe you're the messenger. That's all right. Share the video with someone else. And enjoy the rest of your Friday. I'll be back here Saturday morning with the next card read. And until then, Bama Mina, until we see each other again. Love you guys.